Hello, this is June, and today I'm going to show you my workflow on creating an application with LLM capabilities. The tools that I'll be using is OpenAI for AI functionalities, Github Copilot for my coding assistant, Jupyter Notebook, Python language, and VS Code for our IDE. Let's begin. In this step, I want to create a loop to execute a series of chat completion to check if the prompts columns with its values exist in our table. But before that, we need to do some few extra steps. As you can see, I'm using the Github Copilot as our coding assistant because I'm not that knowledgeable in Python. But Python is supported in Jupyter Notebook and also one of my favorite programming language. Now inside each of this loop, I will first concatenate the values of the column into a single string. Let's click Accept. And always check the code suggested by Copilot because it is not always 100% perfect. Let's check first if the column from the prompt exists in our table. Let's test if the current code works fine. If so, let's proceed into the next step. Now let's make a variable that holds the columns from our prompt that does not exist in our table. Then let's add those columns in this else statement. I will ask our coding assistant to generate us a code to push that non-existent column with a specified JSON object template. Now that we have a function to store our non-existent columns, the next thing our to-do is to check if all values of prompt column exist in our table. Note that our coding assistant can also understand not only our code, but also the comments that we entered before our current line of code. In this part, I asked Copilot to generate us a code to check the length of our array, which is table column values, if it is greater than 0. However, we got a different result from our coding assistant, so we need to tweak it. Fortunately, it's just a minor adjustment. Next is to loop values array object, which is from our prompt, and checks if that value exists in table column values array, which is from our table. Again, let's fix our coding assistant suggested code. Lastly, in this part, we'll have to append the non-existent values to its non-existent column and append that to prompt column not exist array. And for the existing column and values, we'll just have to do the same thing as the non-existing function does. I'll add some print function to check if our code is working properly. Also, I fixed the if condition where instead of value not exist, it must be table column values. I think this step is almost complete. We'll add the message value so that when we supply this data to chat completion, it will understand what this object is for. Let's test the whole notebook and make a request where one of the columns does not exist in the table and the other is its values does not exist. And now let's see the result. We have two outputs. The first one is column from prompt that exists in our table, and the other one does not. As you can see, in the second output, it detects that the prompt is asking to get the list with column tag as either project or frontend, but both of these does not exist. And a column status with a value of done, which both column and its value does not exist in our table. Now let's try another prompt. Let's add an existing column value in the feature column, but we will misspell it as FRONTED instead of FRONTEND. So the next step is to allow AI chat completion to detect the similarities like minor incorrect spelling and spaces, which is difficult in traditional coding to achieve. So now, we will add a chat completion to check if the prompt's values from each column exist in our table, to even if they misspelled or incorrect spaces, it can still be compared by AI. Let's check if our function works. I'll create a new prompt and run again the whole notebook. This time we encountered an error. It says the compiler is expecting a string, but instead found an integer. As you can see, we have a number in the output, so let's make sure we convert all to string before concatenating. And run again if there are still error we'll encounter. And for the final step, we will now feed the corrected values back to original prompt to remove the columns or values that does not exist in our table, or replace the misspelled values. And right now, we are composing the exact prompt to do that task. In chat completion parameter, we'll remove the response format because we are not expecting a JSON object but a raw string. This is not the output that we're looking for, so we need to tweak a little bit the chat completion prompt. I think this prompt will do. Let's try it out and make another prompt request. Thank you for watching. I hope you learned something from this video.